mesh patch, so kind of do what we did last time, and that'll create like a pretty smooth mesh along those lines. So mesh patching is pretty good for like, if you already have your contours figured out, and you're just trying to get like a pretty clean and smooth surface, you just do that. So if you have a grading plan, if you have all your line work and your contours, they're at the appropriate z-axis, so you can just mesh patch and get your like, surface out of that.
Why would you not?
They're not editable. So as you can see, it's like a triangulated mesh. So like a surface, I can do the whole like points on, and I think you can still do it with the mesh. But like as you can see, it's broken because it's like a triangulated thing. Whereas the surface is more like a network that you can adjust.
Would you just drape over it and make it?
Yeah, and that's another thing you do. We just use that drape command to kind of create that tight blanket over it.
So if you wanted to edit the landform, extrude and what have you, what would be the best command to like get it so that you could easily do that?
Yeah, so I think like the simplest one is points on. There's a couple up here that I'll go over pretty soon. But yeah, I think points on is probably it makes the most sense to me at least. So yeah, so going back, we have our patch, right? So that just creates a surface through curves. With the patch command, like all commands, there's like these options. And you can always adjust your UV span. So again, the UV is like the tightness of the surface. So if I go from 10 to 20, it's going to be a little tighter and be a little bit more accurate to the contours. So it's, I guess, a weird way to think, but everything in Rhino is kind of structured on this XY concept. Did you have a question?
So I just did a loft, and a window pops up for me, and it does this style of thing, so you can go normal, loose, tight.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, let's see what that looks like. So, is that like natural?
No, it's just a window that pops up.
That's weird, yeah. Yeah. Actually, I just recently updated mine, so maybe that doesn't make sense why they get rid of that. So it's probably just Rhino. So getting into like more interesting commands, like if you have like, if you like to think about your surfaces as like these like kind of bordered edges, and in this case it's kind of this like weird flat curve with this like kind of bent curve that comes up in the z-axis. So if you just like to think that way, I don't know if people do, but yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, definitely abstract. You can use the command network surface, and I really like this command because it lets you choose like 3 or 4 open curves, and it creates like a very accurate surface to that. So if you're like designing like some cool like bench or like some like a fountain or something, you can kind of play with those commands to do that. So we've been through patch. Again, drape is just that command that lets you throw a blanket over, you know.
What if you don't want a square blanket or rectangular?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it only lets you do that. You have to trim it, yeah. So I'm gonna go through that. So if you drape and you're like, I don't want, and again, it's throwing it into the, that was weird. It's throwing it on the construction plane. So it's gonna like always do that. If you're like up, like working in like, you know, real time, like Z, like you're like at like 2,000 feet above sea level, it's gonna like throw it all the way down. It's really annoying. So what you can do is you can like use that object that you draped on, use that as a way to trim. So you want to select that ply surface and then type in trim. And it should trim that out, and my computer kind of freaked out, but it'll like give you, you know, a cap of like what that would look like. So I think it's helpful sometimes with like the laser cutting process, because if you have meshes that you want more smooth, you can like drape on top of it and get more smooth contours from that. Another pretty handy command is sweep. So this is like in a lot of other programs. So in terms of like, I guess, modeling language, sweeping is like taking a profile curve and sweeping it all in half. So if you run the curve, it's called sweep 1. You can select a rail, which is your path, which is this, And then it's gonna immediately ask you to select your cross-section curve, which is this, and you press enter. And it'll like basically sweep that profile along that rail, essentially. So another method for modeling, and what's nice about Suite 2 is that there's, you can use 2 rails to sweep a profile. So you have your first rail, your second rail. Sorry, I messed that up. So you select your first, your second, and your cross section, and press enter. So it gives you a little bit more control over your geometry. Is this helpful, by the way? Like, am I, okay, cool. All right, I wasn't sure if I was like going too far into this, but similar to the network surface command, the edge surface is great. So it lets you choose like 3 or 4 open curves, and it just closes it for you. So again, just like another tool to your disposal. You choose 4 open curves, and it creates a singular. Actually, it creates a poly surface, so that's interesting. I guess just to go over what a poly surface is, so poly being many, so poly surface is like a singular object that's constructed out of more than one surface. So if I were to explode this poly surface, it'll break it up into these 2 surfaces that Rhino created to accomplish that geometry. This is a singular surface, so I can't really explode it. It's at like its most simplest form. And when you start to get into more complex modeling, that becomes important. For example, if we go back to the singular poly surface and we use a command which is really helpful, dupe border, which means you're duplicating the border of this poly surface. So it's this curve right here. So you can like, if you for some reason delete like the curve you use, and you're like, holy shit, like how do I get it back to that? It's really important. I need to edit the curve. You can just do dupe border. So it's gonna allow you to get back to that curve. And I find myself using this all the time. If you explode this and get your 2 surfaces, you can do duplicate border on each individual surface, essentially. And as you can see, if I duplicate border, it'll create that line, that center line.
Difference between border and silhouette.
I've never used the border before.
Okay.
Let's see what it does. Yeah, I'll learn it. Alright, let's try silhouette, because that sounds cool. It must be like, oh, that's weird.
2D version of it.
Yeah, oh, that's what it does. Yeah, I think it takes it, from your view, it takes that
I was
2D.
wondering.
Yeah.
It doesn't know which way you went.
Yeah,
It does now?
I think you have to like select it, so if you, so if I go over here, yeah, and then do silhouette,
Oh,
it'll like create it in that view, I think. So again, I think, so you have your patch, another command which is helpful is planar surface. So if you just want like a really simple plane, it's going to make the simplest form of a plane for you. So that's 1 U and 1 V. Whereas with the patch command, again, you can specify different U's and V's. So there's 20 U's and V's. So that's just helpful to know if you're like really trying to simplify your data and just make your model faster. It's nice to just be aware of those things. And going back to these commands points on, and going back to Taylor's question about like editing surfaces, and if you know you have like a high point here, and it's like, oh, I want this to be at like 5 feet, and I have a low point over here. This is really exaggerated at like -3 feet. Like, so you can always work from a grading concept in that sense. You can kind of find your peaks and your low points. Soft edit surface again. Lets you select and control your UVs. So this has like 10 U's and V's. That doesn't really matter. If I just do 2 and then 2, it's gonna kind of like control the amount I'm manipulating. So that was 2 U's and 2 V's. If I run the command again, and do like 10 and 10, it's gonna adjust. So that was weird. It's gonna like, you know, take more of those U's and V's and like manipulate it, if that makes sense to everyone. That concept's so kind of confusing to me. But, and the like last way to edit something, and this is the best way if you have like an object, is cage edit. So I'm gonna extrude this surface, and just like extruding curves, you can extrude surfaces, because surfaces have curves in them. So you can use the extrude surface command, so you have this box, you do cage edit, and then choose bounding box and world. And it's gonna give you these options again, like X and Y, it's all kind of the same concept. So it's kind of the nice thing is that once you get used to it, I'm just gonna change this to 10, and press enter, and it's gonna give you a box around your object. You can start pulling on that box to make some forms. So if you're like interested in creating like a piece of your site or like an artifact or like maybe a product of your site, you know, you can always use that on solid surfaces. You can also use it on surfaces that are already edited. So go to cage edit, center, bounding box, world, just keep the same stuff, cool. So it's gonna take like the highest point and create like a bounding box of that. So this gets kind of confusing. I don't model like this ever, but I don't know who would. But you kind of just use this to adjust your surfaces. I think a lot of product designers probably go about this because they can get very specific like looking forms. But who knows? Maybe we'll be doing product design in a year. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Yeah.
Can you move like a set of contours, set distance like in CAD where you select it and then want to extrude it or whatever, can you type in,
Mhm.
I want this up 10 feet, is that the distance?
Yeah, so go
Option.
back to that one model. So if I have this, and you just want to like extrude them vertically, basically.
Yeah, just to be precise, just to say, instead of just grabbing it and kind of just like freeform.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Designator.
So if you select all those closed curves and type extrude curves, it's for some reason, and this happens to me quite often. This has to go like anyone else uses the program. But like if I'm using like a batch of curves, like it'll like extrude it in the top view like this, and it's not helpful. A workaround, so you can do it individually, and the reason why it's doing that is because these aren't closed curves. So if I close all these curves, so those don't want to join. So if I have like this closed curve and I use extrude curve, it's gonna want to extrude in the Z axis. So from there you can do like 0.045 inches. That was like your material height. So you have this like edge. You're going to use that cap command that we talked about to cap it. Another really fast workaround is if you had closed curves, and unfortunately these aren't all closed, you can select your closed curves, use that planar surface command, and it'll create planar surfaces of all those closed curves. So there's a couple of them here that aren't closed, but you can select those surfaces, extrude the surface, and extrude it 0.045 inches to create like that block.
Oh,
And
so you just type it in.
cap it. Yeah, so it's like kind of like logical in that sense where you're like working through these commands, and it takes like some time to like get the, I guess, the language down. But videos definitely help, and yeah.
Could you also use the gumball? Like if you were to just select all of them and then go for the Z-axis and type in 0.45 or whatever in the little bar next to the gumball, would that be
So the gumball like only moves, rotates, or scales. So, and thanks for bringing that up, Nancy, because the gumball is really helpful. So the gumball is a tool that you can toggle down here. So as you can see, I'm toggling it on and off. You can use the gumball to really quickly like move things around, but it doesn't extrude.
Oh, okay, like, so, but if you clicked on the arrow there, if you were to like grab a contour, click on the arrow and say, I want to move it, you know, 5
Yeah, you can do
feet,
that.
and then
Yeah.
drape the whole thing or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you can
Okay.
like move anything with the gumball. So you can like do like, I'm gonna go up an inch here, so we'll like move it up an inch. You can like rotate the model through the gumball. So
I guess the extrusion part, I guess that's just pooling the whole versus,
it's creating like a surface from a curve.
Okay.
It's like kind of extruding it to
okay.
make an object, yeah.
Did you click on the blue arrow to get the dialog box to enter the distance you wanted to move it?
Yeah, you have to click on that arrow, like just left click it once, and that'll like let you specify the distance. And that's like, I think the gumball is really helpful if you're like trying to model things quickly. Yeah.
Hillary, so I don't know if you were asking me this question, but were you just looking to move a curve like up to rather than extrude? Or was that?
Just moving, just
Okay.
anything generally, just being able to.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Like when you're working in CAD, to be able to specify your distance or
Yeah.
angle or whatever.
Okay.
So just type it in, that answered my question.
Yeah.
Super simple.
When I knew less about Rhino, I just like, I would go to the right side and click on one line and then hit move and then type in like
Oh, okay.
move up 5 or something.
Right.
So that's another slower way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can use the move command, because there's a command for everything. And that lets you specify a point from which you want to move. And then in your views, you can kind of like move it around more fluidly, or you can like hold shift to make it perpendicular. And then you also specify the distance. So let's say it was like 1 inch. You can just type 1 inch in there, and click it, and it will move it. Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions right now? You do?
So many.
Yeah. I really flew through a lot of that.
No, it's awesome.
Are there shortcut keyboard toggles for ortho and GridSnap?
Probably, I don't know though. Yeah, there has to be. Let's see if this shows you. Yeah, I think the biggest, like, if I can stand on a soapbox, I think the biggest thing is just not being afraid of the program, because it's really a useful tool, and just like ArcGIS, ArcGIS is super crazy. You can do so much with it. Like, this will open up new ways to model and to like envision your designs, and it's helpful to like actually make it like kind of real world in a sense. So like using topography is helpful, and yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Aaron.
you.
How did you learn? YouTube?
Lots of YouTube.
I was gonna ask, do you have any suggestions for channels, or is the Rhino website pretty informational?
The Rhino website only goes so far. So I don't think there's any specific like channels. I never really followed the channels on YouTube. I just kind of like look what I want to do and like find the best video. But again, that Rhino, is it, what's it called? The command, I should know this, command list. So Rhino has a command quick reference and a command list that you can use. This is a quick reference. If you're like, I want to do something with the curve, I don't know what that thing is. I used to use this a lot just to like, use Control F, and there's 509 curve. So that's crazy. But you kind of get the point. You can kind of scroll through there. But the better option is to use command list. It's the same thing. There's another site that Neil uses.
More common things.
Yeah, it's better like organized. That makes sense.
It's not Rhino3.com, is it?
Maybe.
They're not you know what I mean? So they don't. They have some resources there.
Oh, just like find Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, go to this folder or go to the resources. Yeah, I'll put it in here. You can come in here and find mineral stuff. And there's like a ton of stuff turned out. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron.
Glad that it was